Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're unpacking a reality that has officially crossed over from science fiction straight into our everyday lives. We're diving deep into what top experts are telling us about the radically accelerating timeline of artificial intelligence. We're talking massive disruptions to the global workforce and some very real existential stakes. To kick things off, I want to drop you right into a powerful, urgent metaphor that perfectly captures the exact moment in human history we find ourselves in right now.
Think about it like this. Even before this massive wave of AI hit, we were already struggling, right? We were losing our grip on understanding this incredibly complex world, wrestling with the digital tools we've already built, and honestly, just finding it hard to live in harmony. We already had a raging house fire on our hands. The arrival of advanced artificial intelligence, well, it doesn't necessarily start the fire. Instead, it acts as a massive, completely unprecedented accelerant to the problems we already have. It's the gasoline.
So, if you've been watching the news, seeing what these new AI models can actually do and feeling a deep knot of unease in your stomach, you've got to know you are not alone. In fact, experts have a name for this. They call it being logically scared. This isn't some irrational panic or an anxiety disorder. Feeling petrified right now is actually a completely logical, rational response to getting a front-row seat to a profound shift in human history. I mean, asking threatening questions about job security, the nature of human connection, and what it even means to be human in a world shared with human-like intelligence. Those are deeply logical things to be freaked out about.
Section 1. The Accelerating AI Reality. Okay, let's dive right into this. Let's look at the actual, terrifyingly short timelines that top experts and prediction markets are operating on right now. The absolute most shocking takeaway here? We are not talking about decades away. We are talking about right now. Today, we already have AI that matches human intelligence in a ton of domains. But look just 2 to 3 years down the road. Prediction markets and the CEOs of the top AI labs are literally anticipating the arrival of advanced AI or superintelligence in that tiny window. And projecting out just 5 years, the expectation is that humanoid robots will be automating massive amounts of physical labor. Guys, this is an immediate disruption hitting us in just a few short years. With a timeline that short, you have to ask, why aren't we having more serious conversations about this?
Which brings us to Section 2, the optimism bias trap.
This brilliantly illustrates a major psychological trap we fall into when we look at history. Our default reaction is usually to point to the past and say, hey, technology always creates new jobs. People love to bring up the ATM myth. When ATMs rolled out, bank tellers didn't all lose their jobs, they just moved on to more interesting tasks. But AI is a totally different beast. It's way less like the ATM and a whole lot more like the excavator during the Industrial Revolution. Think about it. You can't get a job digging ditches today because a machine perfectly replaced your physical capability to do it, period. Similarly, if AI can perfectly replicate all mundane human intellectual labor, it doesn't just magically create new intellectual jobs for us, it entirely replaces the fundamental need for human cognitive labor in those areas.
Moving on to Section 3. The end of routine jobs.
So that brings us to a massive, immediate economic threat. What actually happens when a CEO realizes they can seamlessly hire 1,000 AI agents for a tiny fraction of the cost of human employees? Well, the answer is happening as we speak. We don't even need to wait around for advanced superintelligence to figure this out. We could actually replace roughly 60% of jobs today using AI models that are already on the market. We literally just haven't fully deployed them all yet.
Let's take a closer look at the roles that are immediately threatened. We're talking about quality assurance, data entry, graphic designers, video editors, chief financial officers, and call center operators. The terrifying rule of thumb here is pretty stark. If your job involves routine computer work, like if your day basically consists of sitting in front of a screen, clicking, typing, or moving data from one spreadsheet to another, it is highly probable your job will be gone in the next couple of years. This technology is hitting the market incredibly quickly.
Now, what's deeply, truly unsettling is the ceiling on this. We are staring down a world that could experience levels of unemployment we've never even comprehended before. Not 10% unemployment, which, by the way, is already a massive crisis, but potentially up to 99%. Imagine a future where the absolute only jobs left for humans are those where we specifically, for whatever quirky psychological reason, just prefer another human to do it for us. Honestly, maybe we just really want to know a real living person made our overpriced artisanal coffee, because almost everything else can and probably will be fully automated.
So the crucial point is this. We've got to bridge the gap from economic data to human psychology. If mass job displacement is more probable than not, what's the biggest threat to human happiness? It's the loss of purpose. Look, even if society rolls out a universal basic income so everyone can survive, human beings inherently need purpose. We need to feel useful. We crave a certain degree of struggle and the feeling that we're actually contributing something meaningful to the world. Giving someone a paycheck without a purpose, that's just a recipe for deep, deep unhappiness.
Which brings us to Section 4, the existential safety gap.
As immediate and severe as that economic threat is, there's a secondary, longer-term threat we really have to grapple with. And this is the existential risk that comes from creating an entity fundamentally smarter than we are. Just think about this comparison for a second. We are actively creating an alien intelligence. If the news dropped today that actual extraterrestrials were arriving on Earth in exactly 3 years, the entire planet would be in a state of absolute, unified panic and preparation, right? Yet, because this particular intelligence is arriving via data centers and software updates, the general public is just blissfully unaware of the actual stakes.
And those stakes are driven by a genuinely terrifying imbalance in how we're actually building this stuff. On one side, the absolute smartest people in the world are spending billions, yes, literally billions of dollars to make these AI systems highly capable. But on the flip side, we have essentially zero understanding of how to make these black box systems genuinely safe. We literally don't know how to look inside the AI and fully understand what's going on in there. We have never, ever had to deal with something smarter than us, which means we have absolutely no idea how to guarantee that as it gets super smart, it won't just wake up one day and decide it doesn't need us anymore.
Section 5, shaping our AI future.
Let's move on and see how this builds into a clear mandate for all of us. Because we can't simply look at the economic displacement and the existential risk and just throw our hands up and give up. AI is not some inevitable, uncontrollable force of nature. The exact form it takes over the next decade is entirely up to us collectively, as a species, to figure out. First, we have to embrace the reality we can't just stick our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening. Second, we've got to understand and grapple with the consequences, both the good and the bad. And third, we must actively participate and shape the future. If we don't embrace this challenge, then this future simply happens to us, rather than being built by us. Seriously, do not look away just because it feels scary.
In the face of this kind of unprecedented change, the absolute best way to combat fear and navigate job displacement is to actively pursue knowledge. You know the old saying, knowledge is power? It's never been more true. You need to dedicate yourself to understanding these massive societal consequences. Educate yourself on exactly what these tools can do, figure out where uniquely human value still remains, and use that knowledge to adapt and stay ahead.
Because, listen, there is an incredibly beautiful, even utopian possibility waiting for us on the other side of this. If we get this right, we might have finally arrived at the exact moment in human history where mundane, soul-crushing work just doesn't need to exist anymore. We could transition to an entire society where the pursuit of pure meaning completely replaces the daily struggle of routine labor. But, and this is a massive but, this beautiful outcome isn't just going to happen on autopilot. It absolutely requires our intentional guidance.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to carry with you today. We are standing at a major crossroads. The peril of this moment is very real, but it's best utilized if it actually motivates us to act. Will we recognize the sheer magnitude of what's coming and step up to actively shape this technology, ensuring it actually serves human flourishing? Or are we just going to look away, surrender to our optimism bias, and let this profound transformation happen to us? The choice over the next few crucial years is entirely ours. The only question now is, what's your first move going to be?